November 6, 1918. 11:47 p.m. German signals intelligence station, Spa, Belgium. The headphones press cold against Oberleutnant Klaus Reinhardt's ears as static crackles through the night. His fingers hover over the transcription pad, pencil poised, eyes fixed on nothing. Around him, the dimly lit signals room hums with the desperate energy of men searching for ghosts in the electromagnetic spectrum. 3 other operators sit hunched at their stations, each monitoring a different frequency band, each hoping to catch something, anything, that might shift the mathematics of the war. Reinhardt adjusts the tuning dial on his Telefunken receiver. The static shifts, warbles, then suddenly resolves into something unmistakable. Clean, crisp American voices transmitting in the clear. His breath catches. The Americans are usually more careful than this, encoding their traffic through complex cipher systems that German cryptanalysts have struggled to break. But tonight, something is different. Tonight, they're speaking in plain English, their confidence so absolute they don't even bother to hide. 2nd Division to jump off at 0600, Sector Charlie 7. 3rd Division in reserve, estimated strength 42,000 effectives. Reinhardt's pencil begins to move, scratching urgently across the paper. Behind him, Hauptmann Werner Vogel leans forward from his supervisor's desk, drawn by the sudden tension in his subordinate's posture. Vogel is 43 years old, a career signals officer who has spent 4 years listening to the Allies organize their destruction of the fatherland. He knows the sound of something important. "What have you got?" Vogel asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Reinhardt doesn't respond. He's transcribing too fast, his handwriting deteriorating into frantic scrawls as the transmission continues. Division after division, corps after corps, numbers that seem impossible, that suggest a military force of scale neither man has ever encountered. Reinhardt's hand cramps as he writes, but he doesn't stop. The American voices continue their litany of units, coordinates, and strengths with the casual efficiency of men who know they've already won. Vogel moves closer, reading over his subordinate's shoulder, and feels something cold settle in his stomach. "Hauptmann," Reinhardt says, still writing, "they're talking about the Meuse-Argonne sector. This is everything. Their entire order battle." Vogel snatches the previous page from the pad, his eyes scanning the rows of unit designations. 1st Army, 2nd Army, individual divisions numbered into the 40s. The Americans have been in this war for barely 18 months, yet here they are, fielding armies that dwarf anything the exhausted German forces can muster. He does the mathematics in his head, converting the intercepted figures into combat strength, into rifles and artillery pieces, and tons of supplies flowing across the Atlantic. The numbers don't lie. They never do. "Keep recording," Vogel orders, already moving toward the telephone that connects directly to Army Group Crown Prince headquarters. Every word, every unit designation. As Reinhardt continues his transcription, another operator, a young Gefreiter named Schmidt, suddenly raises his hand. "Hauptmann, I have similar traffic on frequency 7.2. American 4th Corps reporting supply deliveries. They're listing, Gott im Himmel, they're listing 3,000 tons of artillery ammunition delivered in the last 48 hours. To one corps. 3,000 tons. Vogel has seen German armies grind to a halt for lack of a tenth of that. He picks up the telephone receiver, waits for the connection to establish, and hears the tired voice of the duty officer at headquarters. "This is Hauptmann Vogel at Spa Intercept Station. I need to speak with the Chief of Staff immediately." "No, it cannot wait. Tell him we have intercepted American communications." "Tell him?" Vogel pauses, choosing his words carefully, knowing that what he says next will travel up the chain of command to the highest levels of the German military. "Tell him we now know exactly how many Americans are coming, and tell him to wake the general." November 7th, 1918, 6:23 a.m. Army Group Crown Prince Headquarters, Charleville-Mézières, France. General Max von Gallwitz stands before a large-scale map of the Western Front, his face carved from Prussian granite, his eyes tracing the red lines that mark German positions. Behind him, 24 officers fill the briefing room, division commanders, intelligence staff, logistics officers, all summoned before dawn, because of what Vogel's team intercepted during the night. The room smells of coffee, cigarette smoke, and the peculiar staleness of men who haven't slept. Vogel himself stands beside the map, a sheaf of transcriptions in his hand. His uniform is wrinkled from the overnight train journey from Spa. He's been rehearsing this briefing in his mind for hours, trying to find words that will make the impossible sound credible. Gentlemen, von Gallwitz begins, his voice carrying the weight of 40 years of military service. Hauptmann Vogel has brought us intelligence that requires immediate assessment. Hauptmann, Vogel steps forward, pins the first transcription sheet to the map board. At approximately 2300 hours yesterday, our Spa station began intercepting American radio traffic transmitted in clear language. Over the course of 6 hours, we recorded detailed troop movements, supply reports, and tactical planning for American operations across the entire front. He pins another sheet, then another. The officers lean forward, squinting at the handwritten notes. The Americans currently have 42 divisions in France. Vogel continues. Each division averages 28,000 men, nearly double the strength of our own divisions. They are arriving at a rate of 250,000 men per month. In the Meuse-Argonne sector alone, they have concentrated over 1 million troops. The room erupts in murmurs. 1 million. The entire German army on the Western Front numbers fewer than 2.5 million, and those forces are spread across hundreds of kilometers, exhausted by 4 years of attrition. Oberst Friedrich Müller, commander of the 52nd Division, stands abruptly. Hauptmann, forgive me, but this seems... Are we certain this isn't disinformation? The Americans broadcasting false strength to demoralize us. Vogel had anticipated this question. We correlated the intercepts with prisoner interrogations, area reconnaissance, and signal traffic patterns over the past 3 months. Every unit they mentioned, we had confirmed through independent sources. The numbers match perfectly. Von Gallwitz raises his hand, silencing the room. He walks to the map, his finger tracing the American positions that now stretch from the Vosges Mountains to the North Sea. Show them the supply intercepts, he says quietly. Vogel nods, pulling out another document. This is where the situation becomes critical. The Americans are not merely sending men. Last night we intercepted inventory reports from their supply depots. In the St. Mihiel sector alone, they have stockpiled 14 million artillery rounds, 200,000 tons of engineering materials, 40,000 tons of chemical shells, and fuel reserves sufficient for 6 months of continuous operations. He pauses, letting the numbers sink in. Gentlemen, they are building supplies faster than we can expend ammunition. Their industrial production is... He searches for the right word. Bottomless. Major Heinrich Kessler, the Army Group's chief logistics officer, removes his spectacles and pinches the bridge of his nose. We expended our entire monthly shell allocation in the spring offensive. We've been rationing ammunition since July. Our troops are down to 15 rounds per gun per day. And you're telling me the Americans have millions of shells in reserve. That is correct, Major. The room falls silent. These are men who understand the arithmetic of modern warfare. Wars are no longer won by elan or fighting spirit or superior tactics. They are won by mathematics, by tons of steel, gallons of fuel, pounds of bread. And the mathematics, laid bare on Vogel's transcription sheets, tell a story of absolute German defeat. Von Gallwitz returns to his position at the head of the table. His voice, when he speaks, carries no emotion. Our intelligence estimates suggest the Americans can sustain their current operational tempo indefinitely. Our forces cannot sustain current offensive operations beyond spring of next year. Even if we stop every offensive, even if we preserve our strength, the simple weight of American material will crush us. He looks around the room, meeting each officer's eyes in turn. The question is no longer whether we can win. The question is whether we can negotiate terms before we are completely destroyed. A young captain near the back, von Stahlberg, barely 25, wearing an Iron Cross from Verdun, speaks up, his voice shaking slightly. General, are you suggesting capitulation? Von Gallwitz doesn't flinch at the word. I am suggesting reality, Captain. Hauptmann Vogel. Show them the projected American strength for December. Vogel pins up the final sheet, a chart he prepared during the train ride. extrapolating from the intercepted data. If current deployment rates continue, the Americans will have 60 divisions in France by year's end, 70 by February. They're constructing ports, railways, and supply networks that will support an army of 3 million men on French soil. They have barely begun to mobilize their industrial capacity. He taps the chart with his finger. Consider what this means. The entire American economy, untouched by war, operating at full capacity, is now turning itself into a machine for producing soldiers and shells. They have steel mills in Pittsburgh that could replace our entire artillery park in a month. They have automobile factories in Detroit converting to tank production at a rate we cannot match. They have a population of 100 million, and they have only just started conscription. Mueller slumps back in his chair. Mein Gott! There's more, Vogel says, though his voice has gone quiet. The intercepts included discussions of 1919 operational planning. The Americans are preparing offensives that will deploy chemical weapons, massed armor, and aerial bombardment on a scale we have never seen. They are planning to break us not through attrition, but through overwhelming material superiority applied simultaneously across the entire front. Von Gallwitz walks to the window, looking out at the gray November morning. Somewhere beyond the horizon, German soldiers are huddled in muddy trenches, rationing their ammunition, making do with horses because there's no fuel for trucks. And across from them, American doughboys sit in dry dugouts, eating hot food, firing artillery barges that last for hours simply because they can. Gentlemen, the general says, turning back to face the room, I will be forwarding Hauptmann Vogel's intelligence to Supreme Command today. I will be recommending that we open our armistice negotiations immediately before the Americans demonstrate the full extent of their capabilities on the battlefield. Because if we wait, if we allow them to launch their 1919 offensives, the terms we receive will be far harsher than anything we might negotiate now. He picks up the transcription sheets. Hold them up. These radio intercepts have shown us the future. The Americans didn't bother encrypting their communications because they know it doesn't matter. They know we can do nothing to stop what's coming. They are so confident in their strength that they broadcast it openly, like a chess player showing you the checkmate 3 moves before it happens. The briefing room remains silent. Outside, a church bell tolls 7 times. In 4 days, at 11 o'clock on the morning of November 11, 1918, the guns will finally stop. The war will end not because of battlefield defeat, but because German commanders, men like those in this room, will read intelligence reports like Vogel's and understand that mathematics, not courage, determines the outcome of modern wars. And the Americans, with their industrial colossus fully awakened, have brought mathematics that cannot be denied.